Hi, everybody, and welcome to the podcast, Coffee with the Kensington, where we talk about all things related to seniors, their caregivers, and families. My name is Brenda Moynihan, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Outreach at the Kensington Assisted Living, and I'm your host on this podcast. My guest today is Sharon Ramadi, and she is the president of the Young Professionals Alzheimer's Council, better known as YPAC. Today, we'll be talking about the topic, millennial caregivers and their unique challenges. Welcome, Sharon.
Thank you. Thank you, Brenda, so much for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
So let's get into it. Tell me, Sharon, tell me about yourself and your background.
Sure. So my name is Sharon Ramadi. I am 31 years old. I am a pharmacist. I have experience in community, hospital, and research pharmacy. And I am a millennial caregiver for my father. My father was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's about 8 to 9 years ago, and I've been very involved in his care for over 5 years now. Prior to that, I was in school, and I do, share the caregiving duties with my mother as well. Okay. And as you had mentioned, I'm also the new president of the Young Professional Alzheimer's Council, also known as YPAC. We are a junior board of the Alzheimer's Association's Hudson Valley chapter in New York. And we are doing amazing things, and I'm very excited to be a part of that group as well. And I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about millennial caregiving. I think it's a really important topic, and I'm glad to be a part of this.
And you know what? It's a topic that's really not addressed. I don't really read a lot about it, right?
No, not at all. I mean, when I was going through the journey in the beginning, I was doing it all by myself. I didn't have anything to read or listen to. It was kind of me trying to figure it out on my own. And it's remarkable now, all of the support and resources that are available, for caregivers and millennial caregivers, just caregivers of all ages now. So it's a very important topic, and I'm here to talk about it all. So thank you.
And how did you get to YPAC? Like the Alzheimer's Association, I don't even know how old YPAC is, or how did you get involved with that council?
Sure. So, the pandemic was difficult for everyone, and especially during a pandemic, being a caregiver took on a whole different new meaning with, challenges and obstacles that I had never anticipated before, one of which placing my father in a nursing home. And it became very important to me to help fight for an end to Alzheimer's. And I thought to myself, okay, so what can I do? How can I help? And I started my own team for the Walk to End Alzheimer's Westchester Walk, which is a signature event that the Alzheimer's Association has every year. And so I started my own team, and it was really the first time that I was vocal and public about, my father's diagnosis. I just had reached the point where I thought, I needed to speak up and I needed to join the fight against Alzheimer's. And I actually was introduced to YPAC, through the team that I started for the Alzheimer's Association's walk, and it was a perfect fit. YPAC is a group of millennials in their 20s and 30s who are committed to creating a world without Alzheimer's. You can have a personal connection to the cause, or, you don't have to, but you are still very passionate about, fighting for an end to Alzheimer's and dementia. And YPAC hosts events throughout the year to engage and educate the communities in around the Hudson Valley, in this fight. But not only does YPAC offer members the opportunity to volunteer in the community, but YPAC also provides members with the opportunity to grow, both personally and professionally, with networking events and opportunities for professional development within our council. Like I mentioned before joining YPAC, I had never met someone who had a parent or a loved one with Alzheimer's, and it was refreshing to know that I wasn't alone. And it was even more inspiring to know that there were others who understood, what it's like to be in my shoes and to be equally passionate about creating a future without Alzheimer's and dementia.
And before we go on, Sharon, why don't you tell the listeners if they'd like more information about YPAC or they'd like to get involved, how can they contact YPAC?
Absolutely. So YPAC has an Instagram page. It is at HV as in Valley _ YPAC, YPAC. We also have an email address, hvypac@gmail.com. And we also do have, a website that you can go on, read our mission, meet all the members of YPAC, and that is www.alzhudsonvalley.org/YPAC. So those are the three great ways to get in touch with us, as well as see what we are all about.
And now, so you've been a millennial caregiver for over 5 years. What do you think is the difference? Because in my realm, we're dealing with the 55-year-old caregiver. What do you think is the difference between millennial caregivers and that typical 55-year-old adult female caregiver?
Absolutely. So I think this is a very important question to address because everyone's experience being a caregiver, regardless of age, is very different because every person's journey with Alzheimer's or dementia looks very different. Mm-hmm. The biggest difference, I would say, from my own experience is the type of loss that the caregiver is experiencing and navigating through that. So, for example, a 55 caregiver in my situation, like my mother would be grieving the life that they shared with their significant other, where it's almost unbelievable to them that the person they spent a lifetime with is going through this journey after having lived such a very full and accomplished life. On the other hand, a millennial caregiver like myself, like I would be missing out on future milestones, with my parent and a loved one, and trying to navigate through events where it's almost like a role reversal. Like I become the parent, taking care of my parent. But it's important to also note that all caregivers are similar in that they want the best for their loved one, and they will go above and beyond to ensure that. And so when I say that being a caregiver, and I'm very proud to say that I am, it is an absolutely life-changing experience. Not only does it feel very rewarding for me to help, my father, but I'm also extending that help to millions of people, all over the world who deserve, a future without Alzheimer's.
And, it's interesting. You said you were caregiving for your father, but that hasn't stopped. You continue, because you and I had that conversation, right?
Absolutely.
It's not like, okay, mom or dad, they're in a nursing home or they're in a senior living facility. That doesn't stop. Is that right?
No, it never stops. And everyone's journey is different. Some journeys are shorter and some are longer. The progression of the disease is always different for everyone. But my definition of, or my role of being a caregiver just constantly changes, but it never stops and it never lessens. And I want it that way. I want to be as involved as I possibly can. The progression of Alzheimer's or dementia, is different for everyone, and whatever journey you're on. It's important to also take note that if you don't want it to end, it doesn't have to.
Right. I mean, it's still your dad, no matter what.
Absolutely.
Right? Can you tell our listeners, if you think about all the resources that are available, especially for the millennial population, what is one resource that you can provide for our listeners?
Sure. So, like I mentioned, it does depend on what part of the journey you're in, to see what resource you're are most interested in utilizing. But for me, the most consistent resource was my father's neurologist, who is specialized in Alzheimer's. And I say this because it was important for me to understand the direction his journey was going to go in, given his specific diagnosis and everything, and how I can manage his quality of life every day. Now, when my father was diagnosed, years ago, it's different than it is now. Now, when someone's diagnosed with Alzheimer's dementia, the diagnosis, it takes on more of a collaborative approach. There's like a team from all different specialties, that help, understand what this is, what to expect, and how to navigate through the journey for both you as a caregiver and for the person who's diagnosed. And I think that's the best resource to start off with, to keep going back to, because it gives you, a whole approach to what to do and what to expect. Then obviously, if you're looking for more support in one area, the Alzheimer's Association, definitely has those opportunities. And, other junior boards like YPAC, if you're a millennial caregiver and you're looking for, other opportunities, there are many resources now. But I would definitely say to start off with that collaborative diagnostic team to really guide you through, what to expect.
Okay. And, we have a couple of minutes left, but I want to know what your take is on why should we be focusing on millennials? Why now? And caregiving?
Sure. So I think there's a big focus on millennials now, just aside from everyone going through a pandemic and that really just highlighting, the importance of caregivers. But, 1 in 6 millennials are caregivers. And I think it's important to let that sink in for a second. According to the World Health Organization, by 2030, the number of people with dementia is going to jump to 40%. And in 2020 alone, the caregivers provided, I would say, about 15.3 billion hours of care, which would be approximately $257 billion. So as more individuals are being diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's, or even younger are seeing and going towards, their caregivers will represent a younger population. So it's important now more than ever to address, the focus on younger caregivers and the need for millennials to help change the future, because they are the perfect candidates to do so. They've got the platform that they can use, and they can reach larger audiences. And it's become more important now than ever, I would say, in focusing on caregivers and millennial caregivers.
And tell our listeners again, how can, if we have millennials listening, which I hope we do, how can they get involved in the cause? What, can you provide some more information, contact information again?
Sure. So if anyone's listening and they are a millennial caregiver, I think it's important to know that you are not alone in this fight. There are many, many people that are going through similar things that you are. And it's a refreshing thing to take note of, that there are opportunities and resources that you can reach out to and utilize to help you through your journey. I would recommend reaching out to the Alzheimer's Association where you are locally to see how you can help in your community. I would also suggest reaching out to see if there is a junior board near you, like YPAC. We are, in New York and the Hudson Valley, and joining their momentum, or even creating the momentum yourself wherever you are. There will be people that will join you. You are absolutely not alone. But if you are looking for more information specifically for YPAC, our Instagram, again, is at HV as in Valley _YPAC, YPAC. Our email is hvYPAC@gmail.com. And if you want to learn more about us, the members, as well as YPAC, a great website to go to is www.alzhudsonvalley.org/YPAC.
Great. Thank you so much, Sharon. And thank you, everybody, for listening. And please remember, if you'd like some more information about the Kensington, you can always call us at 914-390-0080, or please feel free to go to our website at www.thekensingtonwhiteplains.com. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.